Cassie here. Welcome back to my channel. Just a quick disclaimer for this video. I am doing a critical reading of the book P.S. I Love You by Jenny Han. And if this is like your favorite book in the world and you just can't stand to see anybody say anything negative about it, then maybe this isn't the video series for you. I will be doing a critical reading of this book, critiquing the things I don't like and pointing out some of the things that I do like. But I want to remind you all that this is not for the sake of just crapping all over someone's work and making fun of it and just having fun laughing at someone for being a bad writer. This is primarily for educational reasons. I am an author and I have watched videos like this myself, and I feel that I learn so much from hearing what people don't like about a book and even like the little details. So I might be getting a little bit critical here and picking on the tiny things, but that's because I think that that helps us all to become better writers and see what not to do, what sounds a little bit off, and how to do it better. So now that that disclaimer is out of the way, let's get back to the reading. All right, it is Thursday morning and I have quite a bit of time before I have to get to work, so I'm gonna go ahead and read some more of this book. We're on chapter 34, so let's get started. Oh my gosh, you guys, I'm really ashamed of myself for not knowing this already, but the poem that Peter wrote for Lara Jane for Valentine's Day was an Edgar Allan Poe poem. It was Annabel Lee, and he just replaced Annabel Lee with her name, and I feel like I should have recognized that, but I didn't. But Chris did. She just came over to Lara Jane's house and saw the poem, and she was like, he didn't write this. This is Edgar Allan Poe. So yeah, Peter's in trouble, I think. Hopefully. We'll see how she reacts to that. Oh my gosh, I still hate Chris. Just a little update on my Chris feelings. Still don't like her. Like, Lara Jean's upset that he plagiarized the poem because it, like, meant so much to her, and then now she realizes that it wasn't even his words, and that obviously makes it less meaningful. And Chris is just like, don't be pissed, I think it's funny. Clearly he was trying to impress you. Like, when your best friend is, like, really sad about something, you shouldn't be saying that you think it's funny. It's clearly not funny to her. She just has no, like, empathy for her friend at all, ever. Alright, so we got another petty argument about, like, wow, what is the words I'm trying to say? The poem. So, Lara Jean said she couldn't come to his game, lacrosse game, because she had to help Stormy with something, and he's mad, and she says that there have only been 4 games and she's gone to 2 of them, which I think it seems pretty reasonable. I mean, like, yeah, it's important to him, but she also has other commitments in life, and she might not be able to come to every single game, and you shouldn't be just super pissed about it. And then because she's mad at him for being mad at her, she tells him that she knows about the poem, and he said that he wasn't going to pretend that he wrote it, but then she was really happy, so he did. And then she says that she was gonna bake him cookies for his game, but then now she doesn't know if she's going to, and he was like, fine, then I don't know if I'm gonna make it to your treehouse party on Saturday. And she said, you better be there, and he said, well then I better see some lemon cookies in my locker come game day. This relationship is just so toxic. So often. And yeah, that's where we're at. Okay, this is weird because they immediately go from fighting, there's like a page break, and then the next page is this paragraph which says that she brought him lemon cookies and wore his jersey number on her cheek and how happy it made him, and she's like wishing that she should have done it sooner because it took so very little on my part to make him happy. I can see that now that it's the little things, the small efforts that keep a relationship going. And she just, like, it's just so instantly, like, lovey-dovey and, like, oh, I want to do small things to make him happy. And it's like, he was just, like, super pissed at you for something really dumb and, like, pettily said that he's not gonna go to your time capsule party because you're not gonna bring him cookies. It's just, like, now you're just so excited to do all these little things for him and make him happy. I just don't, it's so unhealthy, this relationship. I, like, hope that people don't think that this is how, like, healthy, good relationships look like. So this is just a small thing, but she's getting ready for her time capsule party, and she went and dug up the time capsule before everybody got there and, like, washed it off and has it in the house waiting, and that just seems weird to me. Like, if you bury a time capsule and you're gonna have everyone come over to celebrate, like, opening the capsule, wouldn't you want to dig it up together? Okay, so of course the first person who shows up to the time capsule party is John, which is perfect because now they get time to flirt and hang out before Peter shows up. And John mentioned that she never sent him back her letter, and she said it was too embarrassing, and she didn't want anyone else to see it, which just made me think of the fact that it's actually probably a lot safer of her to send that letter back to John than to keep it in her house where, like, someone else might read it, like Peter, for instance, because I don't remember her letter to Peter, but I'm pretty sure her letter to John was a lot deeper and more meaningful than her letter to Peter was. Oh snap! Peter just showed up late with Genevieve! Oh boy. So I really hope that Peter and Jen have some kind of, like, secret thing going on. Like, she has some kind of family drama or abuse or something that only he can understand, or I don't know, because otherwise, unless there's something like that going on, which we've kind of gotten hints that there might be some weird connection between them, besides just that they used to date, but if there isn't something like that, then I'm just so over him still being friends with her. I mean, she is constantly being mean to Lara Jean. She put up the video that, like, gave them all that drama, and supposedly he was really mad about too, and it's just like, I know that it's hard to, like, stop being friends with someone, but you're probably not going to be friends with your high school friends forever anyway, like, maybe a select few of them that you really connect with, and if you're dating another person, you're not going to be friends with your ex-girlfriend from high school, or not even, I guess they were together in high school, but also, like, middle school, I guess. They had been dating for a while. But, you're not gonna be friends with them forever. So at some point, you're gonna have to stop being friends with her. So why not just make that point now? It doesn't sit right with me the way that he's always, like, hanging out with her and talking to her without Lara Jean knowing. And it's like, it's not like he has to tell Lara Jean everything he ever does, but it's different with Genevieve because she's his ex, and she's his ex who is mean to Lara Jean all the time and makes her feel bad. So that's a different situation. Yay! John is the best, and I love him. So Jen was saying, like, oh, has this place always been so tiny, or did we all just get really big? And then she said, except you, Lara Jean, you're still itty-bitty pocket-sized, which she obviously said in a condescending manner. And unlike Peter, John can actually see through her crap, and he rolled his eyes and said, same old Jen, and, like, looked at Lara Jean and gave her, it said, he looks at me and raises one sardonic eyebrow, and I feel better about everything, just like that. That's how Peter should maybe be reacting to these ridiculous, like, condescending comments that his ex-girlfriend makes to his new girlfriend. In fact, she shouldn't even be here, because he shouldn't have been hanging out with her and then brought her here. Okay, now that Peter and John are in the same room and we're getting to see their differences like firsthand, I'm just so pissed off knowing that she picks Peter in the end because it's stupid. He's so much less great than John. So Lara Jean picked out her thing from the time capsule, and it was a friendship bracelet that Jen gave to her that she used to wear all the time. And John remembered that she used to wear it all the time, while Peter was saying that piece of string was your most treasured thing. So, can we just, like, what is the problem with Lara Jean? Why can't she see that Peter's the worst and John is the best? So, we obviously don't like Jen, but we haven't really gotten to see directly a lot of time between, like, Jen and Lara Jean and Peter all in the same room. And now that we are, it's just so awkward, and she's totally openly flirting with him in front of Lara Jean. And it makes me mad that Peter would be hanging out with her and choose to bring her here if this is the way she acts around him. He pulled out his thing from the time capsule, and it was a baseball that he, from when he hit a home run one time, and Jen says, I remember that day. You came running off the field and you kissed me in front of your mom, remember? And Peter was like, not really, but he was just, like, awkward. And then she, like, quietly, it says in a soft voice, like, no one else is here, she says to him, can I keep it? And he gets all nervous and looks at Lara Jean and asks her if she wants it, and she says no, and starts just eating snacks because she's pissed, and she just doesn't want to start yelling at him. And he decides to keep it, so at least he doesn't give it to Jen, but it's like, if anything like this has happened in front of you guys before, where, like, Jen's saying stuff like that, why would you think that it's appropriate for you to still be hanging out with her and to bring her to this party that Lara Jean didn't invite her to when she doesn't want her around? Gee, I wonder why. Maybe because she openly flirts with you in front of her. It's so stupid. So there's a moment here where, Peter's kind of caught off guard by John being more, like, confident and not so much of a, like, I don't know, like his little sidekick. And Lara Jean says in the narration, it used to be that Peter was the shot caller, not John. He followed Peter's lead. Peter might still be the same, but John has changed. Now Peter's the one who's less sure-footed. And yeah, I would agree that Peter is still the same and John has changed, because Peter is immature and he's still acting like he did when he was a kid, and John is actually, like, acting how someone in this age range should act about things. And it just, I would probably really like this book right now if I didn't know that she ends up with Peter. I'm pretty positive I heard that she ends up with Peter, because I would be really hoping that she's gonna end up with John. So at this point of the story, I would probably be really enjoying this, but I would also be really pissed at the end of the book if she didn't pick John, because it's really, really dumb. So there's this paragraph here where they're talking about this game they used to play called Assassins, and this is the description of the game. Let me know in the comments below if this makes any sense to you, because I don't understand at all. So it says, it was like tag. Everybody picked a name out of a hat and you had to tag the person out. Once you got your person, you had to take out whoever they had. What? I don't know what that means. Now I'm curious. Maybe if this is like a real game, maybe I'll look it up and see how to play it. But anyway, it's actually, surprisingly, this chapter was kind of long and it's getting late. So I'm unfortunately going to have to stop in the middle of a chapter, which I hate to do, but I got to do it because I got to go to work. So we will get back to chapter 35 later today, probably. See you then. Hello! It is Sunday afternoon. Just got back from the gym. I have to film my Tuesday video in a minute, but first I'm going to do some more reading of this book, and I forgot that I left off in the middle of chapter 35, which has actually been a fairly interesting chapter so far. Again, I have to say, like, this book has actually not been nearly as bad after, like, maybe chapter, I don't remember where it was, like 20 or so, or 25. That was about when it started, like, things actually started happening. So all of this could have been left out, and then the rest of this would have been a lot more interesting. But from this point on, it seems like things are actually going to be happening. So let's get back into it. Oh, okay. I understand Assassins now, that game that they were talking about playing. The paragraph that described it, just like, I don't know if it was something about the grammar or just my brain at the moment, but it made absolutely no sense. But after they were talking about the game more, I get it. And it actually sounds super fun. So it's kind of like that game Tag. I mean, that game, you know, have you ever heard of that game Tag? No, I mean, it's kind of like that movie Tag. I think that's what it was called, that came out recently, where, like, a game of tag basically lasts for days. And so it says everybody picked a name out of a hat and you had to tag the person out. Once you got your person, you had to take out whoever they had. That, for some reason, was just super confusing to me, but now I understand. So they all pick a name out of a hat and say Largene picked Peter. Then Largene has to tag Peter, and then she has to take whatever name he picked out of the hat. So if he picked Chris, then she'd have to go tag out Chris too, and then take Chris's name. And then if she had John, she'd have to go tag John, and so on and so forth. I get it now, and that sounds like lots of fun. Okay, so they decided to play a game of Assassins, and Jen didn't like anybody's suggestions for what, like, they should be playing for, so they made her choose, and she decided that everybody, the person who wins would get a wish granted from each other person who's playing. So they'd have to basically ask them for something, and they'd have to do it. And there was one part that was a little, like, again, really nitpicky thing, but Largene said, I only have one pen and no paper, so John tears up the ice cream sandwich box and we take turns writing our names down on our cardboard scraps. If you're just writing a bunch of names on cardboard to put in a thing and then pull them out, you don't really need every individual person to write their own name, especially if you only have one pen. That just was silly. Like, I don't think anybody would do it that way if they were gonna do that. Largene would just take the scraps of paper and write everybody's name on them. But other than that, that was a good chapter. There was just, you know, more little comments from Jen that annoyed Largene, and John being nice to her while she's annoyed with Peter, and making her, like, happy with John and less happy with Peter. And yeah, that's about what happened. And then Largene picked John's name in the Assassins game. So there's this moment where Peter says that girls in their family, meaning Chris and Jen, are scary, but he looks at Largene and says, you're not scary though, you're sweet, right? And she says, suddenly I remember something Stormy said to me. Don't ever let him get too sure of you. Peter is very sure of me, as sure as a person could be. That bothers me, because that's very unhealthy. Your partner in life, I mean, I know they're not married or anything yet, they're just dating, and it's just high school, but still, like, the person you're dating, knowing you really well, is not something that you should be afraid of, and it's not something that you should, like, try to stop. Like, don't let him get too close to you or understand you too much. That's just weird. That's not a very healthy mindset. It's a very drama-filled mindset, and it's a very immature kind of game-playing thing, or way of thinking. Oh, snap! Drama's occurring, and of course it's gonna be over in like a second, because there's a page break right there, and the drama just started right there. Ugh, Jenny. But Peter tells Jen to get a ride home with Chris, and he says, like, figure it out amongst yourselves. I'm hanging out with my girlfriend. And then John says, "Who's your girlfriend?" I mean, we all knew this was gonna happen, right? Why did Lara Jean not, like, think that that might be a thing that would come up? Anyway, Peter says, "Lara Jean, you didn't know? That's weird." And then it says, "Now they're both looking at me. Peter's confused, but John gets it, whatever it is. I should have told him. Why didn't I tell him?" I think you know why you didn't tell him. And I think John knows too, because he gets it. So Peter and Lara Jean are arguing about Jen and how he was hanging out with Jen before the party, and apparently she called him crying, which I think is, and he says that she's going through a lot of stuff right now and she needed a friend. And so I think I was right about the foreshadowing that, like, the connection between Jen and Peter is something substantial, like maybe something Jen is going through that only Peter can understand. But unless it's something that, like, literally nobody else in her life could possibly help her with, I still think it's just weird of Peter to be so close with her, with something that, like, he's not allowed to tell Lara Jean. But at the same time, I also think Lara Jean, well, here's the thing. I don't necessarily think Lara Jean is being too untrusting of Peter, because I don't think he's really earned her trust enough. So I think it's a problem in their relationship that she doesn't trust him and that she thinks that Jen's just, like, trying to manipulate him and that he just doesn't get it or whatever. I think that's a problem, but I don't think it's necessarily something she's doing wrong. It's just that their relationship just isn't good. Like, if that's how you feel about your partner spending time with another girl, then there's probably a reason for that, and it's probably because they've either broken your trust before or they just aren't really very trustworthy, I guess. So yeah, I don't know what to make of this. It just is all really unhealthy, and that she's getting really jealous and she's hating the fact that she's being a jealous girlfriend. And I can actually just super relate to this. I was totally in this position before. I have been here very much where I was being a jealous girlfriend and absolutely hating it. And, like, I wish that I didn't feel this way, because I hate it when, you know, girls are like this and I don't want to be like this. And I blamed myself for it to a degree. I was like, I just need to be more trusting, and why can't I just trust him or whatever. But really, in reality, looking back, it was because he wasn't a very, like, he hadn't really shown himself to be super trustworthy, and that's why I couldn't trust him. Like, I don't get super jealous every time my husband's talking to a girl, because I trust him and he's a very good man, and I know that about him. But I definitely, there have been times in my life where I did not feel that way, and I totally get how Lara Jean feels, in that she's, like, hating herself for being jealous and kind of blaming herself, but I don't think it's really her fault. I think that I think their relationship just isn't very good, and I think that Peter hasn't really done enough to make Lara Jean feel like she is set apart from Jen, and that she is, like, special to him in a way that Jen isn't, and that he doesn't have feelings for Jen anymore. I don't think that he's done much to show her that. So I think there's a good reason that she feels weird about him and Jen, like, hanging out so much still. Okay, so yet another time that Lara Jean and Peter just get in a big argument, and, like, and then they just decide to stop fighting, even though they didn't actually resolve anything at all or communicate. They just kind of, like, got mad at each other for various things and declared, like, said that, well, you're not being honest with me and you're not being honest with me. And then they kind of just said, well, actually, Peter asked if she wanted to break up, and she said, no, do you? And he said no. And so they just decided that since they're not gonna break up, they're just gonna move on. And then they just hugged and started making out, and that was it. Which again is just so not the picture of a healthy relationship. You can't just, I mean, there are definitely moments where small things happen that you do absolutely have to decide, okay, this is not worth arguing about. If we're gonna be together and be a team, then let's just move past this and forget about it. It's not a big deal. But I don't think, like, Peter's relationship with Jen and Lara Jean's, like, friendship with John now, and the fact that she didn't tell him about her and Peter, and the fact that she told Peter that she didn't see him at the Model UN thing, but she obviously did. I don't think any of that is stuff that's small enough to just blow past and say, okay, let's just not talk about it anymore. That's all pretty important stuff that you need to actually resolve, not just ignore it. And that was the end of chapter 36, so let's move on to chapter 37. So Lara Jean and Chris are talking about assassins, and Chris is trying to get Lara Jean to tell her what name she has, and says that they can work together. And Lara Jean says, you might have my name. Besides, I want to win too. And I don't really understand that, because if Chris had Lara Jean's name, then why wouldn't she just tag her right then and then take her name? And she wouldn't even have to ask her what name she has, because she could just take it and Lara Jean would be out. So that doesn't make any sense. She obviously doesn't have your name. Okay, they actually continue to talk about it for a while. Like, she's saying, I don't have your name, I swear. And she's like making her swear on her blanket that her mom won't let her throw away or something. And it's like, you don't need to swear on anything. Like, why? If she had your name, she could just tag you right now. There's no, I mean, I guess, oh, okay, they're on the phone. Never mind. That makes everything make more sense. I just missed that line, on the phone that night. Chris says this. They so often refer to John as John Ambrose McLaren, or just John McLaren, and I don't understand why, because there's no other John in their group. Like, they finally decided to tell each other who they have, and Chris says, I have Trevor, and Lara Jean says, I've got John McLaren. Why would you say McLaren? She obviously knows what John you're talking about. Alright, so chapter 37 was pretty much just Chris and Lara Jean working together to tag Trevor. And, I mean, it was a cute, funny chapter. No complaints, really, but nothing revolutionary either. So Chris did tag Trevor, so now Chris has a different name, but we don't know what name it is. And Lara Jean still has John's name, but since she doesn't trust that Chris doesn't have her name, she's not helping Chris anymore, which means Chris said she's not going to help Lara Jean tag John either, if that makes sense. So I'm going to move on to chapter 38 because it's also pretty short. So let's get into it. So now Chris is out of the game because John Ambrose McLaren, to be specific, tagged her, and he went to like a lot of effort to tag her, and Lara Jean said that it warms her heart that he's taking the game so seriously because she worried that people wouldn't really care. But she said, I wonder what John's wish is. It must be something good to go to all this trouble. And I think it probably has something to do with Lara Jean. Just a guess. Also, I thought that the wishes were like, they got to ask each person for a wish. But it sounds like maybe they're just asking, like, everyone, like it's just one wish that they get. I don't know. We'll see, I guess, when someone wins the game. Okay, so this might be hard to follow because you're not reading the book, but basically through powers of deduction, Lara Jean has figured out that either Peter or Jen has to have each other. Like, either Peter has Jen or Jen has Peter, or both, which means that since they've been hanging out a lot still, that they must be in some kind of alliance, like Chris and Lara Jean were in. So Lara Jean's obviously kind of upset about that. Alright, so chapter 39 looks like it's actually kind of long, so I'm gonna go ahead and stop there. Still got quite a bit of book left, which I can't imagine this story needs that much more time. So it's probably going to be similar to the first, like, third of the book, where a lot of stuff just could have happened so much faster and more efficiently, which I have no problem. I actually really, really like long books if they're written well and it's like you're enjoying the experience, so you just don't want it to end. But this book is just long for no reason, because like half the time nothing important is happening and it could have happened a lot quicker. So, but I'm enjoying this little subplot of them playing this game. It's kind of fun. At least something's happening now. So we'll see what happens later with that. I mean, the rest of that chapter was pretty much just, that was it. Just Chris telling Lara Jean that she's out of the game and them trying to figure out who the other people have. So yeah, that's it, and we'll get back to it another time, maybe later tonight. So, bye. Alright, that is going to be it for this week's video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. And let me know in the comments down below what you think of the book so far. I know some things are getting better, or at least a little more interesting, while as some things are continuing to be the worst and terrible. So, my thoughts are conflicted at this point. If you'd like to continue with this series, make sure to subscribe to my channel. I post new videos on this series every Thursday, and I post other new videos, writing related, reading related, that kind of jazz, on Tuesdays. And that's it. I'll see y'all next time, and have a great day. Bye.